Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal, and you're watching the Mojo Story. The Supreme Court on Thursday adjourned till tomorrow the hearing in the Gyanvapi Mosque case after lawyers for the Hindu petitioners asked for an adjournment. Meanwhile, the report of filming of the Gyanvapi Mosque has been submitted in the court. In another development, a lawsuit demanding the removal of a mosque in Mathura, said to be built on the Christian Janmabhoomi, or the birthplace of Lord Krishna, has been allowed by a court in Uttar Pradesh. This means that the lawsuit can be heard by a court now. We will discuss the issue. We got an eminent panel which is joining us. We're joined by PKD Nambiar, who is a political analyst. We're also joined by Rohan Srivastava. We're joined by Advocate Atiq Rehman, and later we'll be joined by a historian as well. So these are the developments that are taking place. If I can start with you, Atiq Rahman, what do you see? Are these isolated incidents, Gyanvapi Mosque and Mathura, or you see this some sort of a pattern?
Yes, Zafar Saab, we will be into a very big folly if we look into these incidents as isolated. You see, we need to look at the entire game plan of the Sangh Parivar headed and the government in power, the BJP. And the game plan is nothing else. I do not agree with the Congress and the SP and the political, other parties who are saying that this is just a tactic by the government to take away the attention of the people from the main issues like joblessness and things like that. No, we need to understand the Sun Parivar is only interested in one single, their power is to make India Hindutva. This is a beginning towards theocracy like Pakistan, what in 1980s General Zia did with Pakistan, converting itself into a theocratic state. We are on the same lines. The Indian people, we can withstand joblessness, we can withstand any amount of price rise, things like that. But
So
undermining the constitution.
yeah, you
Yes,
feel
Zafar
that these
Saab.
are diversionary tactics, PKD Nambiar? Do you think that these are diversionary tactics and we are shifting the focus from the main issue, the price rise, unemployment, that are really hitting this country at the moment?
Absolutely no. In fact, from the last 3-4 days, if I one of the 2 or 3 prominent channels, we were having only a purely on an economic discussion based on the data, whether it is unemployment or the job, the economic, the petrol price rise, and etc. So we are a vibrant democracy. None of these things can be taken away by merely some kind of a narration by 1 or 2 people. And I think we have a very strong media, which is predominantly left driven. Of course, these days you can also find some of these channels who would be talking about the right wing. Even today, most of the print media in this country are left thought process liberal, who are the one who writes or the narrative of this country. So I don't I don't believe that that is there. Then please understand that we are a very one of the oldest civilization in this world. None of these issues which we are talking about, whether it is Kashi, Ayodhya, Mathura, none of these things have started after Modi came into the power or the BJP. It is much before the BJP was formed or even the RSS was formed. So these are centuries old disputes or cases which was going on. In the case of Mathura, for an example, Kashi, in 1936, if I recall, and the other panelists can, maybe the historian you have, so he can correct it. The Waqf board of that time has went to the court in Varanasi, the British court, asking for to give them the land. The masjid land, the Gyanvapi masjid land should be given it to them for as a Waqf land. But the court that time, the British court has said that it is a historic site, it's an ancient temple, will not be
why
given.
in a short span of time we are having the Gyanvapi issue being heard in the court, and now the Mathura case, that is the only point. You may be right that there is a prolonged sort of a history to these cases, but why suddenly we're seeing one after the other these cases coming up? Do you see some sort of a politics behind it to move the focus from other issues, or is it just happening naturally?
If there, see, there we are as I said, we are a democratic country, highly politicized. Anything and everything in this country is politicized. Even if it is in a mohalla, there is some kind of a small incident. If there is nothing else is there, it will become a breaking news tomorrow. So only thing is that, I mean, it is also important that every kind of a discussion should be coming forward. It is true that, I mean, all these issues have been centuries old. We all know that in historically Aurangzeb, Babur, and many of these Mughal brutal rulers have done a great injustice to this country and to the cultural heritage and the belief system of this country. I only can just wish and tell the people of the Muslim brothers of today, today's generation, we are a technologically advanced generation. Isn't it a high time that we all, I mean, it's not about me and you, it's all about every Indian in this country or in this subcontinent knows that the importance of Kashi, in the importance of Mathura, the importance of Ayodhya, it is embedded in our culture. So what are we even looking at? Just imagine that in Mathura, I was told by somebody,
Yes,
it is like 1/6 of an acre. And that is the
I
land
can see,
abutting to
I
the
can
mandir.
see,
Everybody knows that
I
these
can
are
see
all
Atiq Rehman
demolished
wanting to
structures.
put in a point, but before that, I want to go to Rohan Srivastava. What's the sense that you get first Ayodhya, then Kashi, and now Mathura?
Hello. See, the idea, whatever is happening right now, when I look at it, what I see is that we have lost the sense of history completely. The very space has different meanings in different time period, decades, centuries. What was correct in that time period was basically a political exigency. Destruction of a temple or a destruction of a mosque that happened in the medieval period has got nothing to do with how we look at it today. But now the things like the whole idea of populism, the whole idea of creating a kind of a structure where people are fighting in terms of majoritarian system. When the populist Hindu populism is rising over at one level, and the other level, the other communities which are which are calling themselves minorities, they're also trying to find their own niche. So this is a battle between two communities, not only religious. It is a matter of also to make sure who holds to the power circle more than the other. So basically, the structures that they're basically misusing history, because history has evolved. You have to look at the same edifice from a different vantage point when you are sitting today in 21st century. So when you look at Ayodhya and then you go to Kashi and then you go to Mathura, what I see is uh, you are planning to put pattern in a kind of a system which is not there at all. It is actually a very um, uh, three distinct things which are making a part of a bigger element, and that element is who to hold the power, who is going to hold the power for long, and that's what exactly it
So,
is.
a historical perspective. But Atikur Rahman, you wanted to put in a point. If you can hear me, Atikur Rahman sahab, आप unmute करें. हाँ.
Yes, I can hear you. Am I audible, Zaffar sir?
Yes, you wanted to put in
Yeah,
a point. Please go ahead.
Mr. Nambiar was, making a point saying that we need to preserve the civilization. Mr. Nambiar, no doubt, we all need to. It's a duty. We are duty bound to preserve our civilization. At what cost? At the cost of undermining the constitution? Are you, saying that your constitutionalism have died in this country? You are undermining the parliament, the biggest democracy of the temple of democracy. How can we move about, safeguarding civilization when we are undermining our own people? The Hindutvawadis are time and again posing themselves as the guardian, as if that the British used to say white man's burden to Indians. They are saying that these Muslims are jihadis, you are terrorists, you have no place in this country, you go to Pakistan. The acts of yours are not in consonance with the law of India. The bhajiwalas, the fruit walas, the street vendors, they are not allowed to do business. Students are not allowed in the classes. 5 women went to the court on the basis of Asta Zaffar, and 6 students went on the same grounds to the court saying that we want to put our hijab, which is our culture. Here Mr. Nambiar is saving the culture of only Hindutvawadis. The Muslims, the minorities are not allowed to safeguard their culture, sir. Answer me.
Okay, we'll ask the other panelists, but we are also joined by Aashutosh Srivastava, who's an advocate at this point in time. Welcome to the show, Aashutosh. The Muslim groups are clearly saying that by virtue of Places of Worship Act of 1991, the Gyanvapi Mosque issue is not open to questioning. What do you say?
See, first of all, my respect to everyone who are sitting and to all the religions. Let me have only the legal view, which I want to just,
Yes.
my point of view, I want to put across. See, there are certain bars as per the Places of Worship Act is concerned. However, there are exemptions also mentioned in the same act, and it speaks in subsection 3 of section 4 of the Places of Worship Act 1991, which talks about certain exemptions. Now, like some of the exemptions mentioned in the same act are like, first, if the religious character of a place has changed after 15th August 1947, then the provisions of the Places of Religious Act will not apply. Secondly, if it is a historical monument and that historical monument is more than 100 years old, and that can be covered under the provisions of the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958, even in that case, the provisions of the Places of Religious Act will not apply. So, there are certain exemptions. However, at this point of time, it is difficult to state whether this particular matter is covered under those exceptions or not, because now the matter is pending before the court, and the court has asked for certain surveys to be done. Now, based on this survey report, which has been submitted, the court will take further course of action. Now,
No, Ashutosh, the point that we want to understand is, because of this Places of Worship Act, was it in the first place? The courts took up this case and it went for hearing. Was that the first step that could have been taken after this act was in place?
I completely understood your question. See, when a petition states, when I'm filing a petition, and in the petition I am mentioning that this particular matter falls under the exceptions of the provisions mentioned in the Places of Worship Act. So in that case, the court has to, I have to give some prima facie evidences. And if the court is satisfied that there are chances that this particular matter may fall under the exemptions as mentioned in the act, then the court may order for some kind of inspection or verification or survey. See, the court has not passed any judgment as such. The court is only asking that let's have some report, and based on that report, we can decide whether it falls under any exception or not. Supposingly, if that report, which is filed, and the court comes to a conclusion that no, it doesn't fall under any of these exemptions, then obviously the court will not continue the hearing. But if the court comes to a conclusion that there is material in this, and there is substance in this case, and it falls very well in the exemptions as mentioned in the same act, then the court may continue. So as of now, it is not a final judgment. It is only the proceedings. It is
not the final judgment, Atiq Rehman. The Places of Worship Act that we are talking about, it can also be amended.
Yeah. See, that is another issue which is pending before Supreme Court.
We want to hear from Atiq Rehman.
Yeah, I completely, with respect to Mr. Aashutosh, but I won't, regard what he claims, 1991 Places of Worship Act have some exemptions. Exemptions can only be, as I understand the act, so that if there are any cases pending related to historical and archaeological evidence, and it is very much verified by the courts that they have archaeological evidence into it, and pending, if there are no pending cases, new cases cannot be put up. Ashutosh sir, what I am saying this? I am saying this because non-retrogression, the words were mentioned when in the Ayodhya judgment, the Supreme Court opined upon the 1991 Places of Worship Act that non-retrogression is an essential part of 1991, and that is why it falls in the basic structure. No new cases, no new templates.
No new cases. That is the interpretation that you are drawing. PKD, you wanted to quickly come in?
I have two things to speak on that. One is this the Places of Worship Act of 1991. First and foremost, this act itself is unconstitutional, because we have nowadays, we talk about constitution.
But it's been passed by the parliament.
Yes, precisely. So as with the CIA. So you know that CIA is also passed by the parliament, but people still have a different view. So I'm talking about my view, because there is no law which says that it cannot be further go for a judicial review. If a law which cannot go for a further judicial review, that means that law itself is unconstitutional. Now, it's, of course, there is a bench of Supreme Court is still to vet that particularly. It's a sub judice matter. So let's not going further. So I'm just talking about the 1991 Act, which was done hurriedly by the Congress government just to, from the point of view of minority appeasement, and to put a lot of things under the carpet. Fine, because just they wanted to clear up a lot of things. Now, coming back to the second part. Why don't we accept this particular fact? There is a lot of historic wrong has been done to this society. There are millions of masjids in this country, maybe the largest in the world. There may not be, even whether it is in Pakistan or in many of the Muslim countries, may not be even having 1/4 of the number of masjids which the India might have. When we all know that Kashi, Mathura, and Ayodhya is so significant for every Hindu or every Indian for that matter. It is embedded in the culture and every oxygen what we breathe. The Lord Ram and Krishna is embedded in it. Why don't we accept it? What are we even fighting for? No, 1 second. 1 second. Just let me. What are we even fighting for? We are fighting for a small piece of land, which everybody knows, that anybody whomsoever is eating a chapati or a rice in the morning to evening will understand it was a temple which was demolished by a cruel ruler, whomsoever it could be. There was a lot of bloodshed has been done for that particular stuff. It was all looted, which is already a part of a history. But why don't we correct that history? Today's our Muslim brothers and sisters have an opportunity to correct that mistake which has been done to their brothers, Hindu brothers. Why don't they open up their arms? I know that my own family in Kerala had given a huge parcel of land to build up a masjid once upon a time. I'm talking about 150, 200 years back. So there are thousands of stories of such you will be able to hear in this part of the continent, wherein the Hindu kings have opened their arms, given them the land, even allowed them to convert into the Islam. So that kind of a land, why this hatred? Why don't you give that small piece of land, which is of course a and let me also ask one last question. I don't want to just we all know that the Islam do not believe in idol worship. We all know that. Everybody understands they are absolutely against it. And it is even said, मुझे नहीं पता, maybe my co-panelist Atiq साहब can confirm, ऐसे भी कहते हैं कि जो ऐसे जो कब्जा लिया हुआ जमीन पे मस्जिद बनता भी नहीं है. सुनने में आया कि वो सही है कि नहीं है, गलत है, आप बता सकते हैं. जब ये पता है कि एक जगह where there is a shivling is there, or the various idols of Devi, gods and goddesses are there, what are you going to get out of it? Yes, blunder is being done by a criminal. I don't call them rulers; they were criminals.
But before that, Rohan, I want to get a historical perspective from this, particularly about Gyanvapi Mosque, because there are two things. One, that we're being told that, of course, there was a temple there. It was desecrated by a ruler at that point in time, but also at the same time there is this continuity of namaz that is happening there. What is the historical sort of a perspective about that?
All right. For that, you will have to allow me 2 minutes because it's a long
Yes,
chronology.
yes, yes,
It all starts
yes.
in 1194. When Muhammad Ghori came with his army of slaves, there was a person by the name Kutubuddin Aibak. 1194. He reaches there and he demolishes the Vishwanath temple for the first time, which is also referred to as Vishveshwara. After that, it is the time period of Razia Sultan. 1236, she builds a mosque. After that, after Razia, then there is Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Tughlaq goes, destroys the temple. Then it is the Jaunpur, the Sharki dynasty, Mahmud Shah. Sharki, he destroys it. After that, Sikandar Lodi, and finally, there is Aurangzeb. So there are 6 rulers actually who ruled at different points in time, and they have destroyed Vishwanath temple. Now, first of all, let me tell you this. I have seen people talking about it and writing it all over, but Vishwanath temple is not one, but exactly it is 3. So the first temple is Adi Vishweshwarya or Vishwanath temple that Razia Sultan or Kutubuddin Aibak must have destroyed. And at that place, you see that there was a very important temple. But later, then I started looking at the sources. And then I found a very important source, which was written at the time period of Gadavalas. There was a Dharma Shastrik at that time. His name was Lakshmidhar. And he writes in his Tirth Vivechana Khand that at this point of time, the most important temple was not actually Vishwanath. It was a local deity. The most important deity at that point in time was Avimukteshwar, and that was much more worshipped. Later on, by 1460, we have another important writing called Tirtha Chintamani. It was written by Vachaspati Mishra. He's the same person who popularized Shankaracharya's philosophy throughout North India, as people know. Now, in his writing, he was so confused that he thought that Amuketweshwar and Vishveshwarya is the one single linga. So he gets confused. He even does not talk about it. Then comes the year 1600. Mishra writes another book, Tirtha Prakash. In that book, he says for the first time, no, these both are 2 different places. And from here on, you see a different kind of a history.
So there
As I said,
yeah. So there is, of course, there is historic. There are books written that, of course, there was temple which was sort of which was sort of desecrated or damaged over the period of time. Atikur Rahman, uh, there is the historical account, and at the same time, I was saying that unlike the Babri here, the namaz was a continuing affair. So you wanted to say something? Yes, Rohan, just a moment. We get a view from Tiku Rahman, and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Nambiar is asking for a big heart. No doubt, the Muslims should show a big heart, Mr. Nambiar. But since 2 long years, this 1991 Places of Worship Act is pending. It was challenged in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court asked for the central government's, opinion. The central government is putting this act in cold storage, not making any opinion. Could it not be possible that they should have taken it in the first hand, either amended it? If you say it's unconstitutional, it is not in tune with times. The central government is a mighty government with full majority government. They could have amended it, repealed it. Now, why this tamasha in the name of religion? And secondly, when you say that the Muslims should show a big heart, you are quoting history. What did the Supreme Court, Mr. Nambiar, said in the Ayodhya judgment? That they don't have control over the history, but they do have control over our present. So are we looking into thousands years back into history of the India which is making 21st century Indians demanding their rights, demanding artificial intelligence in the years to come? What are you talking of, Mr. Nambiar? Why you want to take our Indian people back into history, which is just a baggage, full loaded baggage, sir?
Okay. We were yes, PKD, but you complete your point. Rohan wanted to complete his point. I'll just give it to him to complete his point
please.
before before I
Exactly.
come to you and
Thank
to
you.
Ashutosh.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. See, I told you that Razia built her temple. In 1335, we have found a very important inscription which nobody talks about. This inscription is been found about the construction of Padmeshwara temple, and it is written in that inscription that this Padmeshwara temple is situated close to Vishwanath temple. It is this Vishwanath temple which will later become the Gyanvapi Mosque. So what I'm saying is that the monument in question had actually been constructed before 1335, but then we have a very important account, and I think if any student of law should use it in the court also, because there is a book written by Narayan Bhatt. It's a very important book for all the people who goes for Tirtha, and it is called Tirtha Stali Setu. And I would write it was written in 1585. And if you can allow me, I'll just quote. And it's a very
Yeah.
important quote
Yes.
based on the linga that has been on question. It says, even if the linga of Vishveshwara here is taken off somewhere and another is brought in and established by human hands, on account of the difficulty of the times, whatever is established in that place should be worshipped. And if, owing to the power of foreign rulers, there is no linga, I'll repeat, there is no linga at all in that place, even so, the dharma of the place itself should be observed with rites of circumambulation, salutation, etc. And in this way, the daily pilgrimage, Nitya Yatra, shall be performed. What I'm saying is, Narayan Bhatt, writing in 1584, says that there was no linga in the Vishweshwara temple. Shall I go ahead?
Yes, I
We
got the
have
point. That obviously is a very important historical account and a lot
District
of research
Gazetteer
that
of
you have done.
Banaras. District Gazetteer of Banaras mentions that Hindu destroyed 50 mosques, including Gyanvapi Mosque. That includes Gyanvapi, and there is no mention in the District Gazetteer of Banaras in those times that there was a linga present. So I think as a student of history, I can only present you facts.
Yes, these are historical
Exactly.
facts. But PKD, the
And
point.
somebody should use it, because I'll tell you what I feel is, the problem is,
Okay.
when I look at the people talking. For example, I'll tell you, there was somebody who has been mentioning about Masire Alamgari, mentioning about these temples.
Yes.
At the same point of time, in the same time period, there's another book called Sujan Rai Bhandari, Khulasatu Tawarik. He does not talk about any demolition at all. So what I'm saying
So
is,
so so,
people
so
are
there are
pick choosing their
yeah there
sources,
are
which is
varying historical accounts, and that's why I want to ask
exactly.
PKD that Ayodhya, then Kashi and Mathura, there has to be some point where we have to leave the history behind and look ahead, because where will it stop then? Because if tomorrow then some other issue can come up.
May I answer you
Yes,
on
yes,
that? About
yes.
40 years back, if I recall,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I may be just 4 or 5 years of age then. Then the VHP international president Ashok Singhal, which he played a major role in this Ayodhya Ram Janmabhoomi movement, he said, "My dear Muslim brothers and sisters, give us these three places. We will
Yeah.
ensure that there won't be any further, even any, as many as temples may have been demolished and made mosques, but these three places are so important for us. At least give us that. This is my
Sir, where
offer."
is the congenial atmosphere wherein the minorities can expect it to toe your line? Where is the congenial atmosphere? For the minorities, the Sanghis are saying that they should go to Pakistan every day, every evening, every night.
No, I don't wanted this to be like a typical TV debate, so I'm just
Come
keeping
on,
on.
sir. This is the reality, sir. Every spokesperson's mentioned this. This is religious bigotry, nothing else. You want to change democratic India into a theocracy? What is the aim of these young elements?
Atikur Rehman, isn't there a case that perhaps the communities can come together and
Can I may
solve this
complete
issue among
may I
themselves
complete my
rather than this
statement?
getting entangled in the judiciary and the courts?
Can I just
So
complete my
build a
statement?
congenial atmosphere, na? The government is duty bound to build a congenial atmosphere, which the
Where
BJP
is the
has failed
congenial
to do
atmosphere?
in the 8 years.
That's the point. Where is that atmosphere where the two communities
Can
can
I
come
just
together and resolve the issue? Yes.
can I just complete my statement? I'm only
Yes.
saying that this history, what even Mr. Srivastava was talking about, these are histories which is being created by a certain of some element may be true, but these are history which is been we have been We have been hearing it for a couple of years from these left historians who have always created a history wherein the Cholas are never mentioned. The Akbar was the great, the Babur was the greatest ever ruler in this world. The Aurangzeb was the best man in the world has ever been produced. That is the reason he has got roads in his name in all across. I think the Vedas, the Puranas, our epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana was even much before these histories what these people are talking about. Let me tell you, all these, whether it is Mahabharata, one second, whether it is Ramayana or Mahabharata, all these places have been mentioned about the Kashi and the importance of Kashi. And just don't make this as if more of like something like one particular fine day. Some of the Hindus and Narendra Modi and his gangs have got up and just asking for this. All these Muslims should be going. I will never be asking any of them. Every Muslim in this country as is equally as much as important as me. But one thing I will tell you: stop this crying that minority. There is nothing called as minority. I am coming from a place. I am from the Malabar coast where the Muslims are the majority. Where the Muslims are majority, I am a minority there. So should I be crying that it is minority?
Aashutosh is quietly hearing all these different versions that are coming up from our panelists. Aashutosh, I want to come back to the Place of Worship Act. It can be amended in the Parliament, or it can even be changed or scrapped. What do you say? Because we're getting a historical perspective, we're getting two different perspectives from two different communities, but there is a legal point to all of this.
Absolutely. See, the matter has been already filed before Supreme Court by way of PIL, public interest litigation. And, the central government has also been asked to submit its say on the same. Now, I think when the matter is already before Supreme Court, and not only that, like many other issues like Section 124A, sedition of, which is mentioned in the Indian Penal Code, that is also, being questioned before Supreme Court. That is also pending. So I think since the matter is already subjudized before Supreme Court, I don't think it will be, an urgent decision to make amendment immediately in the Parliament. And the same can also be, because if any amendment takes place, the same matter will again go back to the Supreme Court only, stating that this amendment is not up to the marks of the Constitution. So again, the Supreme Court will hear the same issue. So it's better if the matter is already pending to be decided. So let it be decided by the Supreme Court. Now, so far as this particular act is concerned, as I have already explained, if it falls into any exception, the matter will continue. If it doesn't fall under any exception, the matter will not continue. And now, since the matter has already, this was challenged before Allahabad High Court. Allahabad High Court was not inclined to entertain the appeal, and it rejected. Now it went to Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court has what it has done is that it has not changed the decision. It has not changed or set aside the previous orders passed by the trial court. It has only said that till we hear the matter tomorrow, let not be other orders passed by the trial court, because there are other applications also pending before trial court. One of those applications are regarding the destruction of a common wall. So that wall, the apprehension of the lawyers representing the mosque side was that if it is not stopped, or if it is not stayed at the moment, and if any order is passed by the trial court, then the basic purpose of coming to the Supreme Court will get defeated. So the Supreme Court was of the view, okay, there is no urgency, let the trial court not pass any further orders. But it has not stayed anything related to the survey which has already taken place, or maybe the previous order.
That's why the survey report was submitted, perhaps today. So clearly, we're looking at a long-drawn legal battle, perhaps here, but it's for the courts to look into the matter and to decide in the end. But thanks so much to all our panelists for joining us today on this important topic. Thanks to our audiences. That's all we have in today's show. Thanks for joining.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalists.